Hey guys, welcome to day 7 of the Lover Archetype, and today I want to share some of the secrets of esoteric symbolism in relation to the iconic goddess of love, Aphrodite. Now, we know her as the goddess of love, sex and beauty, but is there a hidden meaning in relation to love, sex and beauty? Well, the simple answer is yep. So let's get straight into this. We learned this week that the lover archetype is a binding energy, and when it appears in a wounded form, you are bound to addictions and other destructive attachments. Other than addictions, it's a lack of self-control. It could be arrogance, it could be boastfulness, it could be jealousy, desire, lust, and even narcissism. And these aspects of human nature are evident in several myths that involve Aphrodite, but there's one particular tale I want to discuss today because it explains why Aphrodite is known as the goddess of sex, love and beauty, although that meaning is hidden if you don't understand esoteric symbolism. But the story in Greek mythology is Aphrodite's seduction of Anchises, which is typical of why the goddess is associated with love, sex and beauty. Zeus makes Aphrodite fall in love with the beautiful ox-herd and mortal Anchises, and she falls in love and they have sex. So let's take a deeper look at what this myth actually means in relation to the symbolism of love, sex and beauty and its relationship with the lover archetype. So first of all, I'll just explain a little bit about the myth. So Anchises is a young man, he's a mortal and a member of the royal family of Troy, to whom Aphrodite sides with in the Trojan War. So she already has an affiliation with the royal family of Troy. Anchises also herds cattle on the foot of Mount Ida. And Mount Ida is described by Homer as the mother of wild creatures. Now, wild creatures is symbolic for our animal nature, our instincts that seek out basic human needs in the material world. Now, in relation to the lover archetype, sex, love, companionship and affection are some of these natural human needs. This is our longing for connectedness, our gift for bonding and a desire for harmony. But these qualities require a certain knowledge. That knowledge comes from the Aphrodite energy in the archetype of the lover. In the Iliad, Homer describes how Aphrodite seduces Anchises after disguising herself as a Phrygian princess. Homer describes Anchises as blameless, which is quite telling. It suggests that Anchises has an emotional trauma which was not caused of his own doing, but by something that happened to him in his childhood. And we all experience this. A child that becomes split off from an aspect of the personality is blameless, essentially, because a child acts instinctively and behaves in ways that are deemed unacceptable by society. The child is often then disciplined by set rules with a view that we mature into responsible human beings. But unless a child is shown love and thus has knowledge of how to connect with people, bond and create harmony, our adult relationships become tumultuous, loveless and chaotic. You feel rejected at the end of the day. A person that does not know how to love does not love themselves first and foremost. If you don't know how to love yourself, then you're going to struggle to learn how to love somebody else. So we're also told that Anchises is a shepherd herding oxen and sheep. Well, this is quite telling also. The symbolic meaning of oxen relates to discipline, determination and perseverance, and the ox is known for unwavering focus and commitment to ploughing the field. But it can also be stubborn. Now, if you followed the Archetypes Explained series last week, you may recognise these traits belong to the hero archetype, which is symbolised by Aries. And in Greek mythology, Aphrodite's love affair with the god of war tames his animal nature, which is in Aries is lust, sexual lust and bloodlust. Aries is also associated with the ram, a male sheep, so already we're seeing a crossover of traits in the characters and the symbols that are associated with the gods. Now, from a positive perspective, sheep are symbolic of love, warmth and affection. But they are also known for being docile and following the herd, symbolic for continuously pursuing the desire of your habitual programs and thus falling into addictive patterns of behaviour. You're also more prone to following what everybody else does to fit in, which is actually associated with the everyman, the other archetype to which Aphrodite is the feminine principle. But in this particular myth, Aphrodite represents the positive qualities of the lover, which are love, warmth and affection that are also in the symbolic interpretation of sheep. So we can say that a shepherd, Anchises, has possession of the qualities of love, warmth and affection, but they're not accessible to his conscious personality. They are external, they are outside his conscious awareness and project from his unconscious mind onto the conscious ego. As an aside, this is why ox and sheep are sacrificial animals. Once they are consumed, their symbolic qualities become a part of the personality, but they have to be sacrificed and killed before we can adopt old patterns of behaviour and integrate these new patterns. But they also serve as a reminder that we have to make sacrifices in order to grow, which is symbolic for letting go of attachments. And attachments are things like addictions and fixed beliefs, habitual patterns of behaviour, obsessions and things like this. So here we see the traits of the wounded lover. The lover archetype is an addictive personality because they do not love themselves and look for fulfillment and satisfaction in external and material objects. So as a shepherd, we are led to believe that Anchises is absorbed by attachments in the material world, and he possesses the negative traits of sheep and oxen, even though he is not consciously aware of them. Now this is analogous to the fact that we are consciously aware of animal instincts rearing up, but we are unconscious of the motivation behind them. Why do you get angry? Why are you stubborn? Why are you obsessive, etc., etc.? And just as Aphrodite heals Ares, who possesses the wounded qualities of the hero and the lover archetypes, Anchises is also healed by Aphrodite as his lover. Now what's more, Anchises is mortal. Mortals live on earth, which is physical reality, which is matter, which is a central nervous system. And in symbolism, a mortal represents the death and rebirth of the ego, which we need to develop psychological maturity. We develop the ego when we sacrifice old ways of being and adopt new ways of being. New beginnings are also a well-known symbol of the ram, and oxen are used in agriculture, which is the process of death and rebirth. So all this leads to the transforming of psychic energy by bringing unconscious content into harmony with conscious awareness, represented by the sexual union and promise of marriage between Anchises and Aphrodite. So unconscious content, or our instincts, are symbolized by females and wild animals, whereas conscious awareness or the intellect is symbolized by males or domesticated animals. Now the two pairs of opposites have to be brought into union, represented by sex, and find harmony, represented by a happy marriage, which is an expression of love. So there you see the function of the lover archetype and why Aphrodite is connected with sex, love. So what about beauty? Now, as I mentioned earlier this week, the energy of the love has a binding quality like electrons of an atom. Now this is what binds you to the external world, and that is because of neurochemicals or emotions. Now Aphrodite tells Anchises that Hermes had brought her to see him so that they could marry. Now Hermes represents libido, which is what Jung called psychic energy. Psychic energy is information absorbed from the environment by the five senses, which is then processed by the central nervous system and stored in, you guessed it, neurochemicals, which are also called chemical messengers, which is related to the god of travellers and trade, which I covered in the explorer archetype when I explained the symbolism of Hermes a few weeks ago. So because we are shaped by our environment, we need to create healthy attachments with the world so that we can grow in a constructive way. And that means sacrificing destructive habits that do not serve you and adopting constructive habits that are fulfilling. Now this is when you develop beauty from the inside. So do you see why Aphrodite is known as the goddess of sex, love and beauty? There's more. The union between the goddess and the herdsman brings forth a son called Aeneas, whom the Roman writer Virgil tells us is loyal and seeks the heights where Apollo sits enthroned. Now Apollo represents self-knowledge, which matures into inner wisdom, and in Jungian terms this is the self coming into union with the ego, the alchemical marriage of the alchemists. Now in this state of mind the individual becomes self-directed and not ego-driven. Now this happens when you overcome attachments. When you are addicted to the external world, you are ego-driven because the ego looks after your emotional well-being, your day-to-day survival. So the ego thinks that you need these addictions, and if you don't have any control over your emotions, then you don't have control over your actions either. So you always get pulled into your addictions and typically make the wrong choices because you are motivated by unconscious content that you have no control over. Furthermore, in Roman mythology, Aeneas is an ancestor of Romulus and Remus, the founding fathers of Rome, the seat of authority and power. And the seat of your authority and power is the self-ego axis, the central aspect of consciousness, both conscious and unconscious. Now, to complete the myth of Anchises and Aphrodite, the goddess tells the shepherd that he must never reveal to anyone who the mother is to Aeneas. However, one night Anchises gets drunk and shoots his mouth off. Getting drunk means entering into an altered state of consciousness, which can be synonymous with transformation or ego transcendence. But having broken his promise to Aphrodite, Anchises is struck down by Zeus's lightning bolt and is either blinded or killed depending on which version you read. Now, whilst at face value this sounds like a tragic ending, the esoteric meaning tells a very different tale. Being struck by lightning, blinded and killed are all symbolic for illumination. You understand your motivations behind your attachments. Now this is a catalyst for healing and developing constructive attachments. So the lesson to learn from this myth is that you can identify emotional wounds by analysing your motivations behind an attachment. And you can do this with the Mastermind Content Archetypes tool in the Essential Self-Development Program. So I trust that you found this explanation insightful, interesting and useful. And if so, please give the video a like and tune in for more Archetypes Explained next week when I talk about the trickster archetype. Now the trickster is an energy that tricks you into believing that whatever you are attached to is something that you need, but you actually don't. So it's a logical follow-on from the lover. And if you want more information on the archetypes, then subscribe to the Mastermind Content YouTube channel, which you can find on the link in the description. I'll see you later. Bye bye.